The first time the wind tore through the barn, it sounded like something alive, angry, grieving, and determined to take what little was left. Daniel Harper stood in the middle of the road at 6:12 a.m., his hands shoved into the pockets of a worn-out jacket, staring at the damage. The sky was still a dull gray, the kind that never fully wakes up, and the air smelled like wet earth and splintered wood. He had been on his way to a job interview, another one that probably wouldn't call back, when he saw the collapsed roof and the woman trying, unsuccessfully, to drag a fallen beam out of the mud. He hesitated. He really shouldn't stop. His gas tank was nearly empty. His phone had 9% battery, and his 7-year-old daughter, Lily, was waiting at home with a neighbor who was already doing him too many favors. But the woman slipped. Not dramatically. Not like in a movie. Just a small misstep in the mud, followed by a quiet grunt as she caught herself on the broken edge of the barn wall. That was enough. Daniel sighed, muttered something under his breath, and stepped off the road. "Hey," he called out. "You might want to let that beam win for now." The woman turned. She looked to be in her early 30s, maybe mid-30s. Her jeans were covered in mud, her flannel shirt torn at the sleeve, and her dark hair was pulled, back in a loose ponytail that had given up halfway through the morning. "I don't have time to let anything win," she replied, slightly out of breath. Daniel walked closer, taking in the damage. Half the roof had caved in. The wooden supports were cracked, some completely snapped. Rainwater dripped steadily into what used to be a dry storage area. "This your barn?" he asked. "Yes." He nodded slowly. "It's not just a quick fix." "I figured that much," she said, brushing dirt off her hands. "But I've got animals that need shelter, and another storm coming tonight." Daniel looked at her again, really looked this time. Not at her clothes or the barn, but at her expression. Determined, tired, stubborn, in the way people get when quitting isn't an option. He knew that look. "All right," he said. "Let's start with the beam." She frowned slightly. "You don't even know me." He shrugged. "Yeah, but I know wood. And I know that if you keep pulling like that, you're gonna throw your back out." For a moment, she just stared at him. Then, unexpectedly, she smiled. Just a little. "Emma," she said, extending her hand. "Daniel." And just like that, he missed his interview. By noon, they had cleared most of the fallen debris. Daniel worked with quiet efficiency, his movements practiced and precise. He had spent years doing construction, before everything fell apart. Before the layoffs, before the divorce, before life decided to stack every possible problem on top of him at once. Emma worked just as hard, though less polished. She followed his instructions without argument, lifting, carrying, hammering when needed. "You've done this before," she said at one point, watching him reinforce a support beam. "Yeah," Daniel replied. "Used to build houses." "Used to?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he wiped sweat from his forehead and adjusted the beam. "Life changes," he said finally. Emma didn't press. Daniel came back the next day, and the day after that. At first, he told himself it was just to finish what he started. The barn needed more than a quick patch job. It needed structure, reinforcement planning. But the truth was more complicated. There was something about the place. The open land stretching beyond the barn, the quiet hum of early mornings, the absence of constant noise and pressure, and there was Emma. She didn't ask too many questions, didn't pity him, didn't look at him like he was someone who had failed at life. To her, he was just Daniel, a guy who knew how to fix things. That felt rare. "Dad, are we poor?" The question came out of nowhere. Daniel nearly dropped the spoon he was using to stir a pot of soup. Lily sat at the small kitchen table, her legs swinging slightly, her big brown eyes fixed on him. "Why would you ask that?" he said carefully. She shrugged. "Mrs. Carter said some families have a lot of money, and some don't, and I was just wondering which one we are." Daniel forced a small smile. "We have enough. That's not what I asked. Kids," he thought, "have a way of going straight to the truth." He sat down across from her. "We don't have a lot of money right now," he admitted. "But that doesn't mean we're poor." "What does it mean?" "It means we're figuring things out." Lily considered that. Then she nodded as if that answer made sense. "Can I come with you tomorrow?" she asked. "To the farm?" Yeah, you always look happier when you come back. Daniel blinked. Happier? He hadn't realized it showed. All right, he said. You can come. Emma noticed the girl immediately. Well, who's this? She asked, kneeling down as Lily clung slightly to Daniel's side. My daughter, Daniel said. Lily. Emma smiled warmly. Nice to meet you, Lily. Lily peeked out shyly. Hi. Within an hour, she was running around the field, chasing chickens and laughing in a way Daniel hadn't heard in a long time. Emma watched her with a soft expression. She's a good kid, she said. Yeah, Daniel replied quietly. She deserves more than I've been able to give her. Emma shook her head. Don't do that. Do what? Measure your worth by what you can't provide. Kids don't remember that stuff the way we think they do. Daniel looked at Lily, who was now trying to name every chicken. Then what do they remember? He asked. Emma smiled faintly. Who showed up? Days turned into weeks. The barn slowly came back to life. Daniel replaced beams, reinforced walls, patched the roof. It wasn't perfect, but it was strong, safe. Emma insisted on paying him, but he always brushed it off. I'm not doing this for money, he said. Then why are you doing it? She asked one evening as they sat on the edge of the barn, watching the sun dip below the horizon. Daniel thought about it. For the same reason you didn't quit, he said. Some things are just worth fixing. Emma didn't respond right away. When she did, her voice was softer. You're not just talking about the barn, are you? Daniel gave a small, tired smile. No, I guess I'm not. The storm came 3 weeks later, stronger than the last one. The wind howled through the fields, rain slamming against the barn roof. Daniel had insisted on staying to make sure everything held. Emma argued at first, but eventually gave in. Just in case, he said. They stood inside the barn as the storm raged outside. The structure creaked, groaned, but held. Emma let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. It's going to make it, she said. Daniel nodded. Yeah, it will. There was a long pause. Then Emma turned to him. I never told you something, she said. Daniel raised an eyebrow. What's that? This land. It's mine. He blinked. Yeah, I figured. You said it was your barn. No, she said, shaking her head. All of it. Daniel looked around, confused. What do you mean? Emma took a breath. I own over 3,000 acres of farmland. This barn is just one small part of it. Silence. The storm seemed to fade into the background. Daniel stared at her, trying to process. You're what? I inherited it, she said quickly. My family's been here for generations, but I don't exactly advertise it. People treat you differently when they know. Daniel let out a short, disbelieving laugh. So this whole time, you thought I was just some struggling farmer? Yeah. Emma smiled faintly. I didn't lie. I just didn't explain. Daniel shook his head, running a hand through his hair. You could have hired a whole crew to fix this place, he said. I could have, she admitted. But I wanted to see who would help when there wasn't money involved. Daniel stared at her again. And? He asked. Emma met his gaze. You showed up. The storm passed. The barn stood, and somehow everything felt different. Daniel wasn't sure what to do with the information. It didn't change who Emma was, but it changed how he saw everything else. The land, the work, the time he'd spent here. Are you mad? Emma asked the next morning. Daniel considered it. No, he said finally. Just surprised. That's fair. He looked out over the fields, endless and green. You didn't have to tell me. I know, she said. But I wanted to. Why? Emma hesitated. Because I trust you, she said. That hit harder than he expected. A week later, Emma made him an offer. Stay, she said. Daniel frowned. Stay? I need someone to manage the repairs across the property. Not just the barn, fences, storage units, equipment sheds. It's a lot, and I don't trust just anyone with it. Daniel was quiet. I can pay you, she added. A fair salary. Stable work. He thought about Lily, about the bills, about the endless cycle of barely getting by. And in return, he asked. Emma smiled slightly. In return, you keep doing what you've been doing. Showing up. Daniel looked down at his hands, rough, worn, but capable. Then he looked at Lily, playing in the distance. For the first time in a long time, the future didn't feel like something to fear.